So as we approach retirement, CPP is one of the main retirement source that people rely on. So one of the most common questions we get when we look at a client's retirement is when should they be taking their CPP? So in this video, I'll be talking about 5 things you need to consider when you're trying to choose your start time for CPP, and I'll talk about some real case scenario with some of my clients on when they should take it early and when they should probably delay. So if you're someone that want to learn more about your retirement plan, or if you're approaching the age where you can start taking CPP and you're wondering if you should do so or not, this video will be perfect for you. Alright, without further ado, let's get started. So let's first quickly talk about how the bonuses and the penalties of CPP work and how does the calculation really come about. First of all, everybody's CPP amount is going to be different up to a maximum amount. Your amount is going to depend on how many years you have been working and what is your annual salary every year. There's a calculation for that. So if you want to find out what is your estimated CPP if you were to retire today, I've included a link in the description below that will take you to a CRA website with a calculator to show you your approximate amount. Now, whatever your CPP number is, that is what you're supposed to get as age 65. That is the age that you can take your CPP without any penalty or without any bonuses. However, if you wish to take your CPP before your 65th birthday, for every month that you start earlier, you're going to hit with a minus 0.6% penalty. So if you take your CPP 1 full year earlier at 64, you're going to get hit with a 7.2%. Which means if you start all the way at 60, your total penalty is going to be a negative 36%. So if your CPP at 65 was supposed to be $1,000, if you start at 60, then it will be roughly $640. Now on the flip side, if you were to start any month after your 65th birthday, you will get 0.7% bonus for every month. So for a year, that's 8.4%, which means if you delay all the way to 70, you would get 42% bonus on top of what you're supposed to get at 65. Alright, so that's how the penalty and the bonuses work for the CPP system. Next, let's look at the 5 things you should be asking yourself or considering when you're trying to choose whether you want to start CPP early on 65 or delay until later time. Now, the first thing you should ask yourself is your actual retirement income and whether you need the CPP to start right now or not. Now, for some of my clients, if the answer is yes, they need the CPP right now as they're retiring, then that's the end of the debate. They don't need to consider the other 4 elements because they just need the income, so they should just take it right now. However, more often than not, you can actually get creative with how you try to make up the shortfall for the time being, so then you don't have to take a hit in the penalty for your CPP. For example, you could be tapping into your RSP earlier or accessing other stream of revenue so then you can ladder your CPP to come in at 65. Or if the interest rate is low right now, then it may even be beneficial for you to use some of the HELOC just so you can make up some of the shortfall, so then your CPP can catch up in the payment and then later on use the extra payment to pay back your CPP and then enjoy a higher amount for the rest of your life. Now, this will involve a lot of variables and math, so this is why retirement projection is very important as you get closer to retirement, so then you have an idea what kind of options you have on your hand. Next, the second thing you should be considering is your health and life expectancy. Now, even though it's nice to not get hit with a penalty or even get some bonuses as you delay your CPP, you really only win out versus taking it early if you live long enough to actually reap the benefit. So on the screen here, you see a simple chart showing, assuming you get a certain amount per year at 65 for your CPP, what would that look like at 60 years old and 70 years old with penalty or bonuses? Now, the yellow boxes are showing you that when you will be winning out if you were to pass away during that year. So as you can see, if you take it earlier at 60, you're only going to win out if you pass away around 70 or before. And if you delay all the way to 70, you need to live past 81-ish if you were to win out on versus 65. Now, keep in mind one thing is this is a simple calculation just to illustrate a point. It does not take into account the time value of money, which means money you receive the earlier years is going to be a lot more purchasing power than the money you receive in the later years. But anyway, if you don't really need the income now, then health is something you definitely should consider. If your family history has a history of living a very long life, then maybe delay a little bit because you're likely going to win out. But if your current health is poor or your family don't have a history of having very long lives, then maybe take it early so you can enjoy the benefit earlier. Now, the next thing we should be considering is your other retirement stream and your priorities. So here you really have to ask, what is your plan from now all the way until retirement? And in a retirement projection, here we'll be listing out all the income stream you have. The common ones, as you can see on the chart, are things like business income, part-time income, RRSP or RIF, TFSA non-register, pension, rental income, company retained earning, etc. You should know all the income streams on your hand and also which one you want to prioritize first and which one you want to delay or mix and match before you consider your CPP payment. For example, if someone has a corporation with tons of retained earning that they can dividend themselves, people care about their estate planning a lot more and tax efficiency, so they would choose to start their income as early as possible. So all the CPP OAS start right away to supplement their income so they can delay taking money out of their corporation as late as possible, because when they pass away, it will be passed on to their next generation, which can be dividend out as dividend. So then the tax efficiency is a lot better than having RRSP all taxed as income in 1 year. Now, next thing, speaking of prioritizing, you should be also considering your other financial moves and potential consolidations. So this is where you're going to be making a 1 or 2 times big financial move. For example, selling some of your investment properties to downsize, or selling some of your stock portfolio to consolidate into one fund portfolio, etc. Now, some of my clients have multiple properties, so they will be layering their sale of their rentals maybe over the next 5 years. And their income is going to be very high for those years, so it will be pointless to start their CPP early since they will be at the highest marginal tax bracket. So any CPP payment, not only they have to take the hit in penalty, they also have to pay back a huge sum back to the CRA because of the high tax for those years. So they may as well just not take CPP early to avoid the penalty or accrue some bonuses until all the sales of investment properties are done. Now, lastly, the thing you should be considering is OAS clawback. Now, in Canada, when you retire and start taking your OAS, which is OAS security, if your taxable income is too high, you're going to get hit with an OAS clawback, which is the government asking you to pay some of the OAS back to them. And in some extreme cases, if your income is way over the threshold, you may be asked to pay all of the OAS back to them, so you don't get any of those. Sometimes if you're near the OAS clawback threshold, it may not be worthwhile for you to delay your CPP just to accrue some bonuses, because that will push you over anyway. So on one side, you're getting some bonuses from CPP, but on the other side, you're paying it back to CRA through the clawback. So again, this is why it's good to do some retirement projection, just so you have an idea what is your likely clawback looking like, if there's any. Alright, so those are the 5 things you should be considering when you're trying to choose to start your CPP early, on time, or delay for more bonuses. Now, here are some real scenarios and discussions I've had with my clients, so they may apply to you. So for example, some of my corporate owners, they have a sizable corporation with retained earning inside and also a large amount of RRSP that they could tap into. And since their focus is estate planning, what we need to consider are a couple of things. Number one is that when they pass away, CPP cannot be passed on to the next generation. And also the RRSP is going to be counted as income and get hit with a very high tax bill because they have a very big amount of RRSP in there. So most of it will be taxed away in CRA if they don't use it and they pass away. And lastly, corporation can be passed on to the next generation. Yes, there will be some deemed disposition, but it will likely count as capital gain, and so the tax is more favorable. Plus, if they're still running the business by then and they want to exert control over the kids with the corporation, as we talked about before, they can also utilize a trust to have control even if they were to pass away. So with all that taken into account, for them it might be more worthwhile to focus on CPP earlier, combined with RSP with a little bit of dividend from the corporation, so then they can leave more in the corporation for later years. When the OAS kicks in as well, they will have a lower tax bill on paper, so they don't get hit with the OAS clawback, and also all the retained earnings can be saved for next generation if they don't get to use up everything. Now, on the other side, there's also other kinds. For example, couples that are working in government job, they both have a very nice pension going on. Just from their double pension alone, it will be more than enough for their spending. And their family member usually have pretty long lives, 90 plus. And looking at their pension and other stuff, it's unlikely they will get hit with the OAS clawback by the time they retire. So in this scenario, it might be better for them to start the CPP later to accrue some bonuses, because they're very much likely to win out in the overall scenario. So that's some of my client examples. Now, my general thought on CPP, I can just tell you that based on the people we meet and the discussions we have, I would say 7 or 8 times out of 10, most people are better off to take the CPP a little bit earlier, either before 65 or take it right on 65. Much less common for people to be better off, or they can delay until 70. So that's something I've been seeing. Now, again, that's something you want to talk to your advisors about to make sure it fits your scenario. All right, so that's everything I want to share about CPP today. If you like what I'm saying, hit the like button for me once. If you don't like it, hit the dislike button twice. I do want to hear from you. What is your plan with your own CPP payment? Do you plan to take it earlier, on time, or later? And let me know why in the comment section below. And also, if you like these kind of videos, I do upload them 8:30 EST every Tuesday. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell button so you get all the notifications in the future. Alright, this is Jacky. I hope you found this interesting. I'll see you next week. Bye!